So I asked Kenneth, who's one of the brothers who speaks, if I could take his photo. And he's always been friendly. He said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we set up on the side of the house, and I got my backdrop and the light and the camera, and it's a bit of a production. Clearly something unusual is going on here, and some pickup truck comes running down the road, sees what's going on, slams on his brake, and this dude gets out of the car, angry as fuck. He looks like he wants to kill me. He's marching over to me. I'm like, oh God, this is not going to be pretty. And I'm like, he goes, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm like, let me explain what I'm doing. I grab my book and I show him the samples of the portraits I've done. They're all respectful. They're beautiful portraits. And I explained that there was a death in the family, and I'm going to take photos of the family. They're going to include it in the casket. I'm also going to pay these people for letting me take their photos. And I calmed him down, and eventually he let me be, and I took the photo.
Who was that gentleman?
He was just one of the neighbors, I think. And
he was protecting those people?
He was in protecting, yeah. Because a lot of people in that area know about them and like to drive by and throw eggs and make fun of them and stuff like that. So he thought I was doing something like that. So I got him off my back, and I'm taking a photo of Kenneth. I think I took a photo of Lorraine and her sister Barbara, and Lorraine's holding a nephew or something. So I had a couple prints already, and I go over to Larry, who was one of the other brothers who was in that trailer, and I showed him the prints, and I said, I have an idea. What if I took photos of the family and I gave it to you guys? You could include it in the casket with your sister-in-law. Would you like me to do that? He goes, well, that's fine by me. If they want to do it, it's up to them. So that gave me the green light to go ahead and do this, and I went back and I tried to get that photo that you just saw.
Can I use this USB-C chart?
Ray on the left,
Yeah,
Timmy in the center, and then Freddie on the right.
Can we get that?
Timmy and Freddie were cool. They'll stand there for as long as I want. Freddie was like Ray is now. But Ray, this is 2004. It's what, 16 years ago? 18 years ago. Ray was so uncontrollable. So I had Freddie and Timmy standing there, and I'd go find Ray, and I asked him, Ray, could I ask you to come over here and I'll take your photo with your brothers? And he would come over and he would stand right next to my camera, like right next to it, 2 inches away from the lens. And I'm like, no, I need you to stand with your brothers. And he'd as soon as I corrected him, he would just flip out and go screaming, running off. Pants would fall around his ankles, no belt, and he's wearing jeans that were too big, so his pants fall around his ankles. And he runs off and goes to kick another garbage can, screaming. And this would happen over and over and over. I spent like an hour, probably an hour and a half, trying to get him to stand for a portrait. Eventually, I tried this over and over again, eventually I got it to happen. And we pack up and we leave, and I gave them the prints, and I gave them some money as well, and we're driving away, and Axel, before he got on the highway again, I said, dude, you just got to pull over the car. I just need to soak in what just happened. That was the craziest shit I've ever seen. I've never seen human beings like that. That's like being on another planet. It was the craziest thing ever. And over the years, I kind of maintained a relationship. So those photos were put out in my first book, Creative Equal, which I mentioned earlier. So years go by. I popped there again and visited them once or twice over the years when I was doing some other projects for advertising or something in the area. So I kind of stayed in touch with them a little bit. But then when I started doing stuff at Underbelly, I'm back. I love Appalachia. I love going there for content. And I find the people just so beautiful and interesting. It's a shame that there's drugs there. I went there to avoid the drugs, to get away from it. But the drug problem there is worse than LA. But there's other people who have not touched drugs, and they're my favorite. Just the backwoods hillbillies are my favorite. They're so beautiful. So we're back in West Virginia. I'm like, hey, we're close to the Whittakers. Let's go drive by. So we drive by their house, and I'm not thinking of doing an interview with them. You can't, because I have these rules that I set for my project for Software Underbelly, where I kind of do it in the studio. I try to. And it's an interview where I'm asking questions, and these people can barely answer anything. They just bark or they stare at you or whatever. So I didn't see this as being for my channel. I just was going to say hi to them. And we pull up, and I'm like, life is different now. I have a video camera in my pocket. Let me just shoot a video of this as I'm saying hi to them. And I'll show it to my friends back home who have been here before, or have seen about, have heard about them before. So I'm shooting a video as I'm talking to them. And as I'm shooting, I'm realizing, this is kind of interesting. I wonder if if I stretch this out, maybe it could be a video somehow. And I could use the portrait from Create Equal, because I always include a portrait in all my videos. If it doesn't have a portrait, I don't use it. So, you know, kind of think I could use it, but then I just proceeded. I made it as long as I could. I asked them the same question over again. They couldn't answer them because they don't really.
Donald Trump is struggling so badly with his presidential campaign that he has now had to resort to begging his supporters to beg their lawmakers to come out and endorse him. Now, before I read you what he posted on Truth Social, let me say this. I said he's struggling in his presidential campaign, and that is true. Now, he's not struggling with Republican voters, right? He pretty much has that nomination on lockdown. So when I say he's struggling, I'm not talking about struggling to gain support among Republican voters. He's got that. What he doesn't have are high-profile, or quality, I should say, endorsements. That is the one area where Donald Trump is still lacking. I mean, the Speaker of the House of Representatives is a Republican. He hasn't endorsed Donald Trump. You've got all kinds of Republican lawmakers in that House, a majority of them, who haven't endorsed Donald Trump. You've got Republicans in the Senate where only one or two have actually endorsed Donald Trump. Even those who support him have still not actually endorsed him. So Trump knows that he needs those endorsements to kind of shore up that nomination. So he got on Truth Social, and said this: the great state of Michigan will not have an auto industry anymore if crooked Joe Biden's crazed concept of all-electric cars goes into effect. China will take it all, 100%. United Auto Workers, vote for Trump. Get your leaders to endorse me. I will keep all of these great jobs and bring in many more. Choice in schools and choice in cars. Like, he's an AI-generated character at this point. Like, choice in schools, choice in cars. Like, here's what's so funny about this. Not just that he's begging for the endorsements. That's pathetic. We get it. First of all, Biden does not have an all-electric cars policy. That's not a thing. So he's ranting and raving like a lunatic, because he is a lunatic, about something that doesn't exist. So you're mad about something that you created in your head, and it pissed you off. That sounds like a symptom. Number two, you didn't create any jobs while you were president. So why should anybody in this country, regardless of political affiliation, why should they believe you when you're like, I'll bring back your jobs? You had the chance to do that. You actually touted several companies that you said were bringing their jobs back to America, but those jobs never happened. They didn't move their factories back to America. So you lied to these people about that back then, and now you're lying to them about it again. You're like, China's going to take it all. What do you mean? What does that even mean? China's going to start making Ford Broncos? No. Not to mention, what's wrong with electric cars? Like, why does that offend you? Like, oh, you don't get to fill up on gas anymore. Like, you've been bitching about gas prices the Republican Party has since the day Biden was sworn in. Wouldn't not having to pay those prices for gas be a good thing? I mean, not to mention the benefits to the environment, but take out environmental benefits altogether. Think of the money people save if they don't have to buy gas every week. I mean, that's a no-brainer. You would have to be a no-brainer to think it's a stupid idea, which, of course, is why Donald Trump thinks it's a stupid idea. Ring of Fire has fresh content 7 days a week, so if you want to be reminded about it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell to be notified every time a new video goes up. Donald Trump and his co-defendants waived their arraignments and entered pleas of not guilty this week. What does that mean? Well,
break it down. But more notably for me, Michael Popak, Donald Trump filed an opposition to the speedy trial demand made by some of his co-defendants and former lawyers like Ken Chesborough and Sidney Powell. Donald Trump also asked
You want to take some
to
off
have
the
his
top?
case severed from the other co-defendants. And with that, kind of launched total chaos and disorder among the various criminal defendants in this Georgia case, each pointing fingers at each other, asking their case be severed or separated from this case, and so on and so forth, and failing to understand, I think, Popak, the sweeping power of Georgia's RICO laws. Speaking of failing to understand, Mark Meadows, Trump's former chief of staff and co-defendant in the Georgia RICO case, made the shocking decision to waive his Fifth Amendment right and testified in Georgia federal court as part of his effort to try to remove the state criminal RICO case to federal court. But clearly, Meadows either did not understand the risk he faced in doing this, or once again underestimated Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. Nope. Do not underestimate Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis. And Mark Meadows has found himself now in a perjury situation where he lied on the stand, he was exposed on cross-examination, and potentially a new criminal charge could be brought against him, and the case could likely be remanded back to state court as well. Michael Popak and I will break that down. And let's not forget that this week began with another major hearing in Trump criminal cases. A trial-setting conference was held in Washington, D.C. Felt like that took place a year ago. Nope, that was this past week. I had to check my calendar again in Washington, D.C. before federal judge Tanya Chutkin. Trump's lawyers during this hearing were rude, abrasive, and consistently misrepresented things, facts, and cases, even cases that Judge Tanya Chutkin presided over, and Judge Chutkin was not having it. She set trial for March 4th of 2024, leading Donald Trump to whine like a petulant third-grade child and call her names and say that she is a Marxist. Also, Special Counsel Jack Smith had a significant breakthrough, I think, in the Southern District of Florida case before Judge Eileen Cannon. It was a bit buried in this Garcia motion opposition filed by one of Donald Trump's co-defendants, but it's big news, I think, learning for the first time that 3 additional witnesses are no longer going to be represented by a lawyer paid for by Donald Trump's political action arm. And with all of these criminal cases taking place, let's not forget that the civil fraud case against Donald Trump, the Trump Organization, and his adult kids other than Ivanka, that's still set for trial in early October. Yes, this October. Yes, that's 1 month away, where New York Attorney General Letitia James is seeking at least $250 million and an injunction to shut down the Trump Organization, Donald Trump, and his adult kids from doing business in the state of New York. Letitia James filed a summary judgment motion. So did Trump. What does that mean and what happens next? We discuss here. And finally, 4 terrorists who were part of the Proud Boy extremist group were sentenced this week for crimes on January 6th. 18 years for Ethan Norton, 17 years for Joe Biggs, 15 years for Zachary Rell, and 10 years for Dominic Pizzola. Each were described as crying crocodile tears in court, begging to be able to see their kids one day, but as soon as those sentences were handed down, at least in Pizzola's case, he started screaming, "We love Trump, Trump won!" Just goes to show you the level of maturity and criminality of these individuals and why we do Legal AF. I'm Ben Meiselas from Legal AF, joined by co-host Michael Popak. Popak, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. You know, I love the photos before they go into the court system, like the 19 mugshots you can put up, where everybody's got some version of Jordan Peele's Us movie's photo up there. So happy to be, by the look of the picture, to be in the criminal justice system in Georgia until they're not. Just as the Proud Boys are all excited when they're storming the Capitol and trying to hang Mike Pence and killing people on the steps of the Capitol until they're then put through the grinder of the justice system, convicted of their crimes, and then have to face their maker in the form of a federal judge giving them sentencing, and then they're not so happy anymore. I'd like to do split screens when we do it on the Midas Touch Network of the photos of these people in their mugshots when they're goofing around for cash and what they look like the day they've got to bend the knee in front of a federal or state judge to be sentenced to prison.
You know, I've had a lot of people say, hey, Ben, we should do some merch regarding the mugshots. And here, pull up the mugshots right there. One more time. That's Donald Trump. Pull up the mugshots of all of the co-defendants together. Yes. I'm not wearing that ever, okay? I made the executive... I am not putting that on any shirt that I would ever wear.
Put the children away. That's scary.
And nor do I want to put it on a mug. Because there's, yes, I could say like they're traitors and all of these things, which they are. But it would put me in a very bad mood if I woke up every morning and saw those faces. So I made the call absolutely not with respect to that. And by the way, Popak, I want to give you a special thanks for filling in on the Midas Touch Brothers podcast for Brett, where Brett's been away for the past 2 weeks. He's coming back over this weekend. We did something really cool also where you joined us for the after show that we have on Patreon at patreon.com/MidasTouch. That's patreon.com/MidasTouch. Remember to spell it right. MEIDASTOUCH. So on patreon.com/MidasTouch, we have our after show, and you gave us the origin story, how you met me, how you became a lawyer, how you joined the Midas Touch Network. I just will remind all of our legal AFers on the outset, go to patreon.com/MidasTouch at some point and subscribe and hear about Popak's origin story. We don't have outside investors here on the Midas Touch Network or Legal AF, so the way that we grow this platform is through fun ways like the emojis that you see in the YouTube chat, which is the YouTube memberships, that's separate from the Patreon memberships, but that's how we grow it. We don't want investors telling us what to do. All right, let's get into it, Popak.
Yeah,
what does it mean that Donald Trump and his co-defendants waived their arraignments and entered not guilty pleas? But then if you can, Popak, after discussing that, maybe just break down. There's been a lot of filings this week. Some people have filed speedy trials, severance motions, a lot going on. Try to break it down so that everybody understands what's going on here.
Well, then I think where it starts, and I did a hot take on it, I think it's going up soon, is where I tell my legal associates to start. You start with the rules. You start with the owner's manual for the court that you're in. And every court and every judge particularly has a chamber rule, that's what I call it. It's for the judge's particular rules for their courtroom. And August the 24th, a little covered, I don't think anybody covered it. Scott McAfee, the new judge, 6 months on the bench, he updated his standing order related to all criminal cases in front of him. When he first got on in February, yes, he's been on less than a year, he had a kind of a standard one. As soon as he got assigned the Trump case with the 18 other co-conspirators, he immediately updated his rule book. And if you looked at it, a lot of what we're watching now comes straight out of the things that are required to practice criminal cases in front of Judge McAfee. For instance, in his standing order, he says, if you don't want to show up at your arraignment, that's okay. I'll set a time for it. In this case, it's supposed to be on the 6th of September, and I still think certain of the defendants, kind of on the lower tier, and those that may not have much money and don't have attorneys yet, or maybe getting public defenders, they will maybe show up for these 15-minute time slots on the 6th of September. But in the standing order for Judge McAfee, it says straight out, if you want to file in lieu of an appearance, a motion in lieu of an appearance to waive your appearance, that's fine. If you want to tell me what your plea is, guilty or not guilty in that paper, that's fine too. And so people are starting to do that. Trump did it, Rudy Giuliani just did it. Others have done it, and Chess Bros and Powell. And then some haven't done it yet because one just got out of prison, out of jail, because he's been sitting there this whole time because he didn't have a lawyer and couldn't make bond. And so this is quickly devolving right? As we slide down into entropy, as we slide down into chaos. This is what happens when Donald Trump can't pay or won't pay for everybody's legal fees with bought and paid for attorneys so he can coordinate strategy. When you don't do that, which is what he's not doing apparently, and everybody's complaining about it, Jenna Ellis, for instance, who had been a huge Trump supporter, is now supporting DeSantis after she got almost her bar license pulled, and is now complaining on social media that why isn't MAGA Incorporated, the PAC, paying my legal fees and everybody's legal fees? Well, they're not. And so they're all getting their own lawyers. In fact, none of these defendants, we're going to talk later on about Mar-a-Lago, where there are groupings of defendants and co-conspirators and witnesses behind one or two main lawyers. Here, there's like 19 separate lawyers. None of them are coordinating as of yet. Some, because this is like, I said it on the hot take, this is like crabs in a bucket trying to get out, right? And they're stabbing each other as they fight. It's every man, woman, and child for themselves. And that's what we're watching. So one group wants to go to trial, try to catch Fani Willis flat-footed. So far that's Ken Chesbro, who we're going to talk a lot about today when we get to Mark Meadows, who wrote two major legal memos, you want to call it that, pushing the fake elector scheme and the pressure campaign on Mike Pence. He said, I'm ready to go right now. And the judge says, fine, why don't you go on the 23rd of October? I'm talking about this 23rd of October, not some other 23rd of October. Like the same month that Donald Trump is already in that civil fraud case we're going to talk about later today. Ken Chesbro and Sidney Powell are going to go to trial. And rather than be caught at all flat-footed, the prosecutor, Fani Willis, and her team said, ready, we're ready. And why don't we do it all? Talk about the bravado here, which I love. The brass of Fani Willis and her team. They didn't say, Judge, October? That sounds really early. They knew under speedy trial law in Georgia it was a possibility. That's why we gave her, some good-natured ribbon between between this past March and when she finally got around to indicting. Where are you, Fani? You said it was imminent. Well, she had to get ready for a trial. You see how quickly things move in Georgia. It's breathtaking, the velocity. So she said, not only did she say, I'm fine with October 23rd for those two, let's do all 19, including Donald Trump. Now, of course, that freaked out the others who aren't ready, like Donald Trump. He never wants to go early about anything. He wants to go never. So his lawyers are moving to uncouple. I refer to it, if you're thinking about it pictorially, this is a 19-car roller coaster that is hurtling out of control at hundreds of miles an hour, each defendant in a car. And now, some of them, like Donald Trump and others, want to pull pins and take their car off the tracks and find out where it lands. And so Donald Trump wants to sever his case away from the others to have his own personal table for one trial related to the criminal cases. And the others are like, yeah, me too, I want to do it by myself too. But that's not how a criminal RICO conspiracy is done. Each one of them is responsible for the 161 overt acts that are listed in furtherance of the conspiracy in the indictment alone. They're each responsible for each other's bad acts. So even though there's 34 counts or whatever it is in the indictment, and only a certain subset against each person, a lot of them were like, we want to sever the indictment too. We don't want the jury to know about the other bad things and counts of other people. But that is the very nature. That's why she brought a conspiracy case and a RICO case to boot. So that should not fly. I think this case gets separated, but not the way any of them anticipate. I think it's just going to be like basically cut down the middle if they can. It'll be like 9 here and 10 there, unless there's a courtroom big enough to hold all 19. And then I think it's going to be that. That's one group. The next group want to run to federal court. And we're going to talk about how badly that is going for Mark Meadows. If he's the test case, if he's the canary in the coal mine, it is going terribly. The canary has died. Do not run to federal court because Fani Willis is waiting for you there also. And she is loaded for bear. And she's ready to put on her mini trial and cross-examine you if you're stupid enough to take the stand. All of this, though, to back up from what I originally said, Ben, starts and ends with Judge McAfee's rules.
No problem.
And some people might be saying, some people might be saying, God, Georgia criminal procedural law is so different, so alien to you something we talked about earlier today.
Come on,
In
Lobo,
criminal
don't do the
law,
whole
in
thing.
federal court, and you're right. In federal court, there's a hearing about it. You don't like the order judge asks for a hearing. You don't like the brief file, they ask to file another brief. And everything is done in this kind of fashion. We've had a dozen hearings in Mar-a-Lago. We've had 2 or 3 already in Jan 6 with Judge Chunky. You know how many hearings we've had in Georgia already? Even though they've been arraigned, have their bond conditions set, and a trial be set? 0. 0. There hasn't been one. I don't want people to think Midas touch and everybody has to fall down the job, that we didn't cover a hearing that happened. Scott McAfee has set bond conditions, told people what they can and can't do on release, arraigned them, set trial dates, and he's never had anybody in this courtroom yet. That is Georgia procedural law, and that is the rock and a immovable object.
Can you turn the chair? Face like the
That
first
all
time?
of these, that vice, that they are all now in, that only one person.
Hey guys, it's Mala Isaac, and today I'm gonna walk into McDonald's and stay there until I get back. Let's see how much. Thank you guys for watching this. So like, comment, and subscribe.
Someone said if I could ruin rabbits, they would get me to 100-pound Instagram. So now y'all gotta feel pain. Sometimes as soon as the rabbit babies are born, the father will murk the entire family just so he can mate with the mother as soon as possible. The female isn't much better because if the birthing process is too stressful for a first-time mother, she'll eat her children. If she's afraid, she'll eat her children. If it's too noisy, she'll eat her children. Inexperienced mothers sometimes get confused and eager to eat their children. Rabbit teeth never stop growing. This is what can happen if they can't wear them down, to the point where you have to cut them with nail clippers. Bug sponges are flawed because if you feed your rabbit nothing but carrots, it'll die of malnutrition, because wild rabbits don't even eat carrots. They're too high in carbohydrates, so it basically be like being a toddler nothing but candy. But you want to know what rabbits actually eat? Rabbits are physically required to eat their own food, and they do it to make sure they get all the nutrients they can out of one meal. It's called coprophagia. Once baby rabbits turn 10 days old, they'll start eating their mother's forbidden Hershey kisses directly from the source. You heard what I said. Sometimes when a rabbit sees a dead body of another rabbit, it'll get confused, so its first natural response is to conjure the corpse with no hesitation or regrets. Look at him go on Instagram ask me what animals actually mean as hell, but nobody realizes it. This is the first animal I thought of. If y'all learn anything, it's that
Kind of a long Z.
we're talking about animals that straight up swing on jaguars and sometimes win. First of all, giant anteaters can be more than 7 feet long and weigh almost 100 pounds. Giant anteaters have terrible vision, which is why they have something I like to call white nostril syndrome, which means because they're legally blind, they treat everything around them as a threat. If this murderous vacuum cleaner you can detect motion, go choose violence. And you want to know why scientists nickname it the ant-man? It's because those claws are good for digging up food and digging out grapes. Those claws are so sharp that even jaguars are getting twice about attacking them because one swipe can cause life-threatening injuries. Giant anteaters have been known to severely maul zookeepers, and one even killed a hunter after severing one of his arteries, causing him to bleed to death. To be fair, it was a hunter, so you know, you roll the dice, sometimes you take them out. So yeah, anteaters are way meaner and aggressive than you. Maybe if they use this self-crap to get their mental in order, it wouldn't be such a threat. But anteaters don't have phones, Wi-Fi, or even thumbs, so they're a Hall of Fame menace to society. At least the babies are cute. Here's every animal lie you believe as a kid in 60 seconds. Bats aren't blind, they actually have better eyesight than people. If we had bad vision, we probably would have seen color come. Bulls are most of the kids that makes them charge, and they use their color red to hide the bull's blood because they abuse and torture it to make it more aggressive. Ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand when they're afraid. When they do this, they're actually rotating the eggs in their underground nest to make sure one side doesn't get